The UAE to start Friday prayers from tomorrow, and shocking new details about the presence of COVID-19 in the U.S. since December last year. Details on that and much more on this Emirates News Update. Hi, I'm Faraz Javed, and here are the latest stories this hour. The UAE today announced 1,317 new cases of COVID-19. This brings the total number of infections recorded since the start of the pandemic to nearly 173,000. The Ministry of Health and Prevention also announced 655 new recoveries, bringing that total to more than 157,000. Sadly, 5 new fatalities were also reported in the last 24-hour period, bringing the UAE's coronavirus death toll to 585. Muslim faithfuls in the UAE are gearing up for tomorrow as mosques across the country will resume Friday prayers at 30% capacity. Now, this is happening after months of closure because of the coronavirus pandemic. But back in July, mosques had resumed regular prayers. However, Friday's service remained suspended, and this was only done to keep people safe from COVID-19. So now, to make sure everyone has a safe Friday prayers, authorities here are reminding worshippers to follow the guidelines, such as do not gather outside mosques before or after the prayer. The mosques will open 30 minutes before the sermon and will close 30 minutes after the prayer. Attendees must wear a face mask at all times, and they must also bring their own prayer mats. Keeping social distancing in mind, no shaking hands or hugs will be allowed, and worshippers must maintain adequate distance from one another. The elderly, children, and those with chronic diseases should not go to the mosque, and worshippers should take their own personal copies of the Holy Quran or read it from their phones or tablets. People are asking, can events be conducted safely in the new normal? Well, that question was answered by this year's Dubai Fitness Challenge, which successfully came to an end last weekend. More than 1.5 million participants took part in the annual challenge to complete 30 minutes of exercise for 30 consecutive days. This year's 4th edition fully complied with the current safety precautions and also used virtual technology for more than 200 events. One of the highlights this year was the first Dubai ride that saw more than 20,000 cyclists kicking the cars off Sheikh Zayed Road for a morning. And of course, with a greater emphasis on personal health than ever before, the Dubai Fitness Challenge also increased awareness of proactive ways to stay healthy and avoid COVID-19 infections. In international news, the U.S. hopes to have 100 million people inoculated against COVID-19 by the end of February, which is approximately 40% of the country's adult population. Officials say the push should start within weeks when vaccines developed by Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna are expected to be approved. Each of these requires 2 doses, the second after 3 and 4 weeks, respectively. Meanwhile, as the production of the 2 vaccines expand, 20 million will be reached in December, 30 million in January, and 50 million in February, achieving the 100 million total. Now, this figure, however, excludes other vaccines by Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca Oxford that are in the late stages of development. A shocking new study has revealed that the novel coronavirus was circulating in the U.S. back as early as mid-December 2019. That's weeks before the virus was first identified in China and about a month earlier than the first case was officially confirmed in the United States. The discovery has been made public by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In the study, CDC researchers tested blood samples that were donated between December 13, 2019 to January 17, 2020. And in these samples, antibodies specific to COVID-19 were detected. The findings suggest that the coronavirus started spreading before the public health authorities around the world even became aware of it. So next week, the world's first mass vaccination program is set to begin across the United Kingdom. The government there has now set out its vaccination plans, and the first to receive the jab will be residents and carers in homes for elderly people. That will be people above 80 years of age, as well as frontline and social care workers. The UK has ordered 40 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, with the first 800,000 to be available for use next week. The announcement means Britain has become the first Western country to approve a COVID-19 vaccine, jumping ahead of the US and Europe. And this was only possible after the UK regulators cleared the shot developed by Pfizer for emergency use in record time.
There are immense logistical challenges. The virus has got to be stored at minus 70 degrees. Each person needs 2 injections 3 weeks apart. So it will inevitably take some months before all the most vulnerable are protected.
Although we are the first health service in the world to be able to get vaccinating, supplies from the manufacturer are phased. So the initial tranche in December is going to enable us to get started, but the bulk of this vaccination programme, either through this vaccine or hopefully others as well that will join it, will take place in the period January through to March or April for the at-risk population.
So Pfizer Chief Executive Albert Bourla says that he is confident that by the end of 2021, there would be more vaccine doses than required to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. His remarks came after Britain approved a vaccine produced by Pfizer and BioNTech on Wednesday. The two companies say their vaccine is 95% effective. Bourla also said that the vaccine would be an effective tool in fighting the spread of the disease, but governments around the world need to ensure that other measures are not relaxed in the meantime.
Given the pressure, open the economy, should not make the mistake, because now we have a vaccine, let's relax immediately the other measures. I think it will be important that they will use the vaccine as one tool in controlling this disease. Undeniable, it's going to be likely the most effective, most permanent impact, but there will be one of them in the beginning. And the time that we'll have to go back to, we can go back to normality is not far away, but definitely is not now. So we are doing right now everything we can to increase the manufacturing capacity that we have. But the challenge is that we need to increase it in the next few months. I feel very comfortable that by the end of 2021, for example, we'll have more doses than the world needs.
Japan will give free coronavirus vaccines to all of its residents as the nation battles record numbers of daily cases. The government says it will cover all vaccine costs for Japan's 126 million residents. And to do so, the country has secured COVID-19 vaccines for 60 million people from Pfizer and a further 25 million from Moderna. The Japanese government has also confirmed it will receive 120 million doses of AstraZeneca's vaccine. Japan has seen a comparatively small COVID-19 outbreak overall, with around 2,100 deaths and 155,000 cases, and has not imposed the strict lockdowns seen elsewhere. But the country is now facing a third wave of the disease, reported in a record number of daily cases nationwide in recent weeks. Germany will extend its COVID-19 restrictive measures until the 10th of January, and state officials say the lockdown could become tougher if conditions don't improve. So measures such as keeping restaurants and hotels shut and limiting private gatherings to 5 people will remain enforced. Now, earlier, these measures were set to expire on the 20th of December, but the extension was decided after seeing the daily rise in infection numbers and Germany reporting its highest single-day death toll last night since the start of the pandemic. Right, with that, let's take a look at the worldwide infection tally, and there are now more than 64.5 million COVID-19 infections around the globe and nearly 1.5 million fatalities from the deadly virus. Those are the latest figures from Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. has the highest number of infections with nearly 14 million confirmed cases, while the death toll there is approaching 274,000. India follows with more than 9.5 million cases and over 138,000 fatalities. The number of cases in Brazil is well above 6.4 million, while more than 174,000 have died there due to the virus. Meanwhile, Russia now has over 2.3 million confirmed cases, with more than 41,000 fatalities. And finally, confirmed cases in France stand at nearly 2.3 million, while close to 53,000 people have now died from the virus. Another blow to the basketball season in the U.S. Now, just a couple of weeks away from the start of the fresh new NBA season, and now preparations have been hit hard because nearly 50 players have now been tested positive for COVID-19. The NBA say they tested 546 players in the last week of November, and 48 results have come back positive for COVID-19. So now all those players have immediately gone into isolation. Meanwhile, the league has rearranged matches to severely limit the travel of teams across the country. Also, players are not being allowed to train in groups until next week, with the season set to start on the 22nd of December. And here is one for a sense of normalcy. The Oscars 2021 will not be a virtual event. Instead, it will be organized traditionally as an in-person telecast. The Academy Awards are traditionally held at the 3,400-seater Dolby Theater in Los Angeles. But because of the pandemic, the number of people who will be allowed to attend is still being evaluated. However, the 93rd Academy Awards ceremony has been scheduled for the 25th of April, so that theaters would be open once again in the spring, which will allow more films to compete in the awards. Okay, that's it for now. I'll be back at 5 p.m. with more updates. Till then, don't forget to check out our Twitter and Instagram feeds at Emirates_News. And you can also find me at It's Faraz Javed. Bye for now. And of course, happy 49th UAE National Day to one and all.